we're back with another episode of the CFC Fitcast. Matt, hit us with that beautiful sound. There it is. That is the kickoff to another fantastic day here at CFT. Let's talk today. We got a question from one of our fantastic viewers.
Long time
viewer.
Long time listener, first time caller.
Yeah. Wanting to know about Rhabdo. Let's talk about that. We're gonna crack some. We're gonna bust some myths today.
Is that one word?
We're gonna talk about stuff that people believe are true about CrossFit, about group fitness in general, and we're just gonna bust those myths up. We're gonna go straight myth busters. Matt, let's start with you. What do you think about that Rhabdo thing, man?
I'm pretty sure a lot. I'm pretty sure negative bench press could probably give you Rhabdo if you do it enough.
I'm pretty sure any movement in a negative, and not negative like it's a negative or positive, but negatives, we're talking about movements. You're going on a 3-second pause, 3-second lower, 3-second hold, things you're doing where there's just a long delay in there, and you're really forcing those muscles to hold a position can cause Rhabdo. Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Pretty much any negative.
Especially in the untrained individual, unconditioned, new fitness adventurer.
Like Vinny?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm so new to it.
So this is why when we program negatives and people are like, oh my God, that hurts so bad after doing 3 or 4 of them, we tell people, yeah, it's usually why your first couple times, maybe your first couple months, 3 by 3, 3 sets of 3, 5 sets of 3, somewhere in there, depending on your current volume accumulation. If you're brand new to a movement, 3 sets of 3 pull-up negatives is going to be more than enough to start building that muscle base in a movement. But
show us a video of that pull-up negative there, producer.
Pull-up negative? Mm-hmm. Pull-up negative. While he's pulling that up, we'll talk about it just a little bit more. What happens, I think, with a lot of people is they don't feel it at first, right? So that first 3, 4, 5 negatives, it's tiring. You're not really sore, though. And negatives really bring that delayed soreness, where that lactic acid really builds up, and then that's where you get the Rhabdo issues. If you take those 5 and go, oh, it wasn't that bad, and then do 3, 4 sets more 5, things can get a little bit dicey. Yeah. Yeah, sure.
I mean, make it watchable.
I mean, seriously.
So
I don't know about that.
So when we're talking about delayed soreness, are we talking about DOMs?
Domes?
I mean,
delayed onset muscle soreness?
Are we confusing people with Rhabdo and DOMs?
No.
Good.
I believe there's a huge difference.
Big difference.
Delayed onset muscle soreness, what we're trying to say is, most of the time negatives aren't going to hurt right away. They're going to hurt a lot the next day. So people tend to overdo it, not realizing that what they're doing is going to be painful. And what they end up doing is they over-volumize it and then end up with more than delayed onset muscle soreness. They end up with a case of Rhabdo. Highly common also in marathons, half marathons. If people have not built up the volume,
you got to really push yourself to get Rhabdo.
I mean, you have to put a lot of impact on those joints. It's generally in your joints.
We're talking about pull-ups and kipping pull-ups. That means daily pull-ups and negative pull-ups in order to create some sort of... Who is this?
Yeah, if you notice right there, it's just a real slow lower.
Yeah.
There's a lot of activity in your muscles going. It's
a bodybuilding.com video? Because they probably slowed the video down because they can't go that slow.
Yeah.
Because they're bodybuilders.
It is just the best visual.
Too much mass.
Oh, she's got a little stool. That's cute.
Yeah, this is
wow. Look how fast she dropped. I know moms that can go slower than that.
So long story short, there's your negative for those that didn't know what it is. Over volumizing that can be dangerous, which is why we generally tell people to start slow, add volume as you go along. But it's definitely helpful in all aspects of the strength gain.
Mm-hmm. Next rumor.
Let's see. What else? What's another good one?
Weightlifting makes me bulky.
Oh, God.
Oh, man.
Oh, I could go on this one for ever. Says the fattest guy in the room.
I've always heard that. But only from
Oh, it only affects women
massive
apparently.
Myth.
Yeah. Women are going to get bulky from lifting weights. Coach Vinny.
I mean, unless we're having them eat like horses, and probably giving them some stuff that they shouldn't be taking. I mean, it takes a lot for even myself and, producer Dean, to put that mass on. I mean, everybody likes to play the genetics card, which does play a massive role in how the body can put things on, whether it comes on quickly, prolonged over time. But I just hate hearing that where if I lift weights, I'm going to get bulky.
You know what weightlifting also does for you, women? Prevents osteoporosis.
Yep.
Which is very common in women.
Yep, densifies your bones, makes them stronger.
Yeah. What's osteoporosis, Vinny? You're the one with the degree.
Didn't drink enough milk.
I'm uneducated.
Well, let's get the exact.
Oh, okay. Well, why the hell did you go to school?
I mean, why'd any of us go to school? So, as to simplify it, osteoporosis is when the bones become weak and brittle. So, when Coach Matt's talking about lifting weights can increase bone density, and we're talking osteoporosis, which is a big, disease, condition, whatever you want to call it, it tends to be a lot bigger in women. Going through the birthing process.
What's she grabbing?
All sorts of things cause that osteoporosis. And male, female, it's there. But lifting weights right there, such a big benefit.
I agree. I concur.
More than 3 million U.S. cases per year.
Whew. That's a lot of people.
It's just a fact of life that they can get osteoporosis, right? There's no way around it, right?
There's a way to inhibit, to keep it from setting in early, like in your 50s, which is ridiculous. If you're living a life of only carrying your body weight around, you're not going to get much out of that. Your body weight, your body adapts, it gets used to it, and then it can accumulate enough muscle and bone density to support that, but osteoporosis can still have an effect on your body. But if you're continually adding in different stimuluses, variations, different training regimes, protocols, that can absolutely extend or prolong your quality years of life, which is being able to go out and do things, move around, without any help at all from people, or even extend your geriatric years when you're older and you need assisted living. You can extend that until you're 80 or 90 because you have such strong bone density and neuromuscular system. I know there's a guy on the internet who's currently, not the internet, in real life, I should say the internet, who is the back-to-back world's strongest man because he, in his age group, because he's like 92 and he pulled like 215, 220. Yeah, he sumo pulls too.
Damn.
Mm-hmm.
Mobile and dense bones.
Yep.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure I shared it on my Facebook account like a year ago. I need to refresh those.
See, and we can tie that osteoporosis back to the rhabdo. Someone that has a serious case of osteo, if they have a fall or a serious injury, it's going to take that person's body much longer to replace that bone and rebuild new bone. And some more serious cases of rhabdo tend to come from more of a serious injury, traumatic stress to the actual muscle. Someone with osteoporosis definitely has kidney issues, renal issues. And like we said, the older you get, those falls get worse. And we're seeing people well into their 60s, 70s, 80s lifting weights. We're trying to break those myths that if you lift weights, you're going to get bulky, you're going to get hurt, you're going to get injured. I mean, Mythbusters, we could host a daily show here at the gym.
Yeah, my favorite is the bulky thing. It comes in quite often. I mean, almost every day we get somebody that walks in and goes, I want to lift weights, I want to get stronger, but I don't want to get bulky. Like, it's immediate fear. Let's put that fear aside ladies and gentlemen, there are a lot of guys out there that are afraid of getting muscular. They like to be lean, as they call it. We've had some people recently inquire and tell me their goals were to lose weight first and then add lean muscle.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how we're going to segue right into that topic. Losing weight and being afraid of lean muscle. The fact that you have to do one before the other. No. You do not.
I would argue that you should probably work on building strength before you implement some sort of high intensity conditioning programming.
Build that foundation.
I completely agree. Building myself back up, having done this a few times. I'm currently doing 30-minute workouts, and they're conditioning, but there's also a strength component. And I've done probably about 2 months worth of strength work before even kicking into the conditioning part of this. And it's making the conditioning easier because I'm stronger. I'm able to support my body weight. I'm able to go a little bit longer. And that's big. I mean, I don't think people realize when you're trying to lose weight and get healthy and get fit, how much muscle plays into that.
Yep. Yeah. Not just with strength, obviously, but also strength endurance.
Right.
Like how long are you strong? If you're stronger and you also have endurance, you can go harder and faster for longer, therefore burning more calories and getting close to your goal of being leaner and stronger at the same time.
Guess what? Fact. Lean muscle will allow you to run longer. Yeah. For those of you that think you need to do more cardio, you're going to be able to do more cardio, run longer, run faster, and get more out of every workout if you're adding lean muscle.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, when we're talking about losing weight, when we go through assessments with people, and that's always one of the first goals is I want to lose weight. And for me as a coach and a trainer, I try to really not put a whole lot of emphasis on the weight and the number. It's like Coach Chris mentioned, let's get healthier. Let's become a better human. Let's create better habits, train, get stronger, like Coach Matt mentioned, and strength and those results alone are going to lead to those other gains. You can step on the scale and then let's not worry about the scale for another 6 to 8 weeks, maybe more, and let's just let things fall into play. Let's get stronger. Let's build that lean muscle, which it takes time to build that lean muscle, but it's going to replace the fat. You might even go up in weight because we know that muscle outweighs the fat. It's healthier. And like Coach Chris mentioned, you can become a better runner with more lean tissue. It allows more nutrients to pass through healthier muscle, more oxygen coming in and out. Your body can just produce more. So to become a better human, it takes a long time. I've been training and working out for close to 20 years now, and I'm in my 30s, and I'm still impressed with what I can do. And what we do now sets us up for success the older we get. We're in a new age where people are living well into their 90s and their hundreds and lifting weights. I know Coach Lori lifts with some experienced lifters that are up there in age, and you would never know it.
No, and going back to that real quick, I was looking for this Harvard study. I saw it today. Somebody posted it. There was a Harvard study that said 15 minutes of weightlifting is 3 times more beneficial than 15 minutes of cardio. Mm-hmm. And that's straight from Harvard. So I decided to look for it and ran on this thing about osteoporosis. And it says...
Use the wrong search terms.
Harvard, this is straight from Harvard Health. They said a combination after age 40, bones grow more fragile, susceptible to fracture. And let's see, 6 out of 10 people who break a hip never fully regain former level of independence. So they're basically either wheelchair bound or walker bound or in some sort of help home.
Exercise seems to be the prescription for a lot of shitty things.
They are saying numerous studies show strength training can play a role in slowing bone loss, and several show it can even build bone. Mm-hmm. So this can help offset age-related declines in bone mass.
And that as opposed to the cardio.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep.
Cardio only.
And this week we can tie this into the epidemic of medication, why we're keeping people over medicated, and we can't make them better by bringing them here into our facilities.
Because you can't write a prescription for fitness.
Yep. I had a physical 2 weeks ago, and my doctor told me to my face that I am at an unhealthy weight and I need to be.
Oh, good old BMI.
Yeah,
huh?
for being being 5'6", I need to weigh 140 pounds. So
Every PT test I had to be
terrible.
taped and measured because I was always overweight in the Army standards because they went off the same BMI scale. My body fat percentage only equated to about 14 to 15% typically.
Yep.
But my weight was still like 190, 198, and I'm 5'9", 5'8.5".
Yep.
And I was, according to the Army, I was approximately 38 pounds overweight.
How are doctors still using, or like how are professionals still using that?
I'm currently working with a kid from TDO.
It works
next door.
for not so lean people.
Yep. Who just broke his arm. He's been out of the cast for now 12 weeks. And the week that he came out of the cast after breaking his arm in 2 places, his doctor told him that he wouldn't need any rehab or physical therapy and that he could return to 100% of his daily activities. Pitching, throwing, hitting, everything. This is a kid that just broke his arm 2 places, and his arm was 2 times smaller than the other arm, and this is a doctor telling him that, oh, you're good to go.
That happened to me when I dislocated my shoulder at 13. And doctor's like, oh, yeah, you'll be fine. Don't play football for this season, and he'll be good going back next year. I've dealt with problems in this shoulder ever since because it never got all the way back in the socket, and I never was told to build muscle around it to engage all those nerve endings and everything. So now it's been a problem ever since. And It's so difficult to balance out the strength in that shoulder. It's taken me years of being here at CFT to get it to a stable position. But when I first got here, I couldn't put a barbell over my head because I couldn't balance it on my left side. Couldn't support the barbell. Just an empty barbell. So yeah, that's really dangerous stuff when you're talking about a 14-year-old kid who's not being educated on what to do until he came to us. And now he's going to potentially be able to get around a lot of the issues I've dealt with. I dealt with for almost 20 years. And I found that little post. Men and women who spent 20 minutes a day lifting weights put on less belly fat than those who perform cardio for the same amount of time. And that is straight from Harvard Medical.
Well, if you think about what your body's doing physiologically when you lift weights, you elevate your heart rate, your breathing, your respirations are going up, metabolic processes are speeding up, to try to create some sort of equilibrium in your body, homeostasis, but it's hard to obtain because you're elevating your biomarkers, like you're increasing your acidic levels because of the exhaust that your muscles are putting off. Each contraction, your muscle creates an exhaust, gets transferred to the blood, your heart reads the blood, and is like, oh, something's going on, we got to start working a little bit harder. Cool thing about it is, though, is when you're done working out, when it comes to weight training, and you go about doing your regular day, you never really go back to that resting heart rate that you started with before your workout. It's slightly elevated, therefore increasing your metabolism, as everybody likes to say. But with working out versus cardio, if you finish your cardio, your heart rate comes back down. That is, if it's not very intense as far as the load goes. It's not very heavy. It's mostly body weight. The recovery process is totally different. So your body is recovering for longer periods of time after a weight training session. So your metabolism is elevated, your heart rate's elevated, the body's working a little bit differently, more in tune to what's going on versus cardio. It kind of comes back down and gets back into this resting zone, and there's nothing really to recover from because your body's adapted to the same type of cardio training session because nobody really takes it a step further. They kind of keep their routines very vague and similar to the day before. Routine.
And I think activating your core while you're lifting too has a big part to do with it. So if you're activating your core, you're working those muscles.
Isolation is great, but compound lifts are even better. Isolation's more, I think of that more as accessories.
Yep.
So if you're trying to get strong and lean, you definitely need to do your compound lifts like squat, deadlift, or if you're an Olympic lifter, snatch and clean and jerk. But you also need to hit your accessories, your exercises that are going to get you stronger in your weaker places, like rotation, your rotator cuff. Start doing bar pulls or barbell rows, pin lay rows, dumbbell bench presses, stability factors, strengthen the core. hollow holes, hollow rocks, all those things.
Yep.
They burn.
Yeah.
They burn so good.
And you'll get way more of a benefit out of that. Whether it doesn't matter if you're strong or you're weak. If your goal is to get leaner and lose weight and look fit, that's going to do it.
Yep. And I think here too, it's like we have all of those different types of programs for our members, you know, from the CrossFit side, you know, where they're getting their Olympic lifts and the intensities there, their gymnastics, everything that CrossFit needs to be. It's awesome what we have on the floor here. I mean, kudos to Coach Matt and Coach Chris for what they've done out on the floor. I mean, Dean keeps coming back. You know, even though he's late, we still love him.
Mm-hmm. He's not as late.
You know, we have our CFT 60 side, which I mean, it's awesome with that crowd, and there's a lot of them that have started to transition over to the CrossFit side. They're signing up for the Open, which is huge. You know, because we want the whole community involved, not just the CrossFitters. And then CFT 30, I have fun time teaching that, you know, Wednesday afternoons. It's a good change of pace. Those 30-minute workouts, you're in, you're out, and you're sweating. That's all that matters. And for the oddball stuff that Coach Matt's mentioning, you know, that's what Nike Training Club is for. You know, we're working the dumbbells, the isolation, the speed, the agility. You know, one of our members, Yasik, he's prepping himself for the police academy right now, and he's wearing his vest, he's doubling up in classes, and he's kicking butt. And you can utilize our programming for stuff specifically.
You can always build up,
You know,
add a little bit more, do a little bit more, but remember that you still have to have your foundation in order to build on. If you don't have a foundation, if nothing in this world had a foundation, it would all crumble. For example, houses without a good solid foundation, they'd fall apart.
You don't build the roof first. It just
Exactly.
doesn't work.
Exactly.
Now, before we sign off, I want to talk about that BMI thing for a second, because I think there's a lot of people that are still attached to that idea.
Of what?
BMI.
Oh.
People, that's
because a doctor says
that's
it's
you guys
good.
have heard probably, if you've listened to this podcast, you've heard me kind of mention sugar science. I don't know, mention it in a flattering way. Sugar science is basically what it was adopted in the 50s and 60s as a way of determining health, basically in the fact that you should eat carbs, not fat. Fat is the enemy, not carbs. And, you know, any healthy adult should be eating a sizable amount of carbs and protein every day, and staying away from fat as much as possible. That goes with BMI. What's really easy to determine somebody's health without checking their body fat? BMI.
Yep.
BMI is a terrible way of adjusting somebody's health. If I turned to Brian Shaw, who won World's Strongest Man 4 times in a row, and told him, hey, dude, you're fat, he'd probably crinkle me up into a pretzel and toss me like a Frisbee.
He probably couldn't catch him.
Yep.
But the man is in amazing shape.
Yep.
There's a lot of people in this gym who are told by their doctor, based on BMI, they're out of shape, they're fat. And, you know, a lot of them have 6-pack abs. So you're telling me that's fat? Like, what do you want me to do? Get a 12-pack? You know, stop eating? So what happened was they redirected people away from body fat. And body fat testing would tell you if you're eating a bunch of carbs, not working out, and eating protein and living a pretty lethargic lifestyle,
Need to increase activity.
you're in trouble, right? Your body fat's going to keep going up. Well, what's the problem with that? I thought carbs were healthy. I thought all these carbs and sugar and everything else and eating sugary cereals and all this stuff is good for me and my kids. Well, if you're
Part of
taking
a balanced breakfast.
right, if you're consistently taking, and it's got all the fiber now. You know?
Yeah.
If you're consistently,
Good source of fiber.
yeah. Oh, look,
the
it's
box.
40% fiber. So if you're consistently checking your body fat, they would have got a completely different story, right?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of checking BMI, instead of a doctor being paid and told to go off BMI because that's the way to do it, and that's what colleges are being paid to do. They would be testing body fat, and they'd be getting a completely different result.
As far as what it is that the colleges and stuff are teaching, I think that comes down to the ego of the departments. And this is just science in general, what I've found, and it seems to be what I've heard other scientists confirm too as well, is the people who originate these findings or come up with these platforms of measurement, they believe so much and so hardcore into their science that they're unwilling to believe that it's incorrect when something new science comes along. So because they put their whole life into it, and if they go back on it, then it kind of goes to show that it makes them feel like they didn't know what they were talking about, or they were wrong, or there's some sort of negative aspect of that. When in reality, science is always changing. You know, one point Pluto was a planet, and now it's not, and now everybody's trying to argue that it is again. I'm confused.
Yeah,
So
what is it,
science
a
and
block of ice?
nutrition, but there's none of that with nutrition. This is the way, this is the only way. The other ways are wrong. You know, you're gonna get cancer and get sick and die if you do the internet pathways, whether it's if you're doing some sort of form of the high protein diet or the ketone diet or the paleo diet. There's all these negative stigmas around them because it's not the standard, and the my plate or the food pyramid, it doesn't follow those government standards.
The food pyramid's a crock of shit. I
It
think
doesn't
everybody can
exist
agree
anymore.
on that. Yeah.
Glassman don't like the food pyramid all that
But-
much.
Grains, man. Grains are the foundation.
Yeah, the foundation. Eat more pasta. Maybe if you're Italian. then you
Maybe
can
if
handle
we
it.
were farming all day and lived in the
Yeah.
dark
Yeah,
ages,
and if the activities,
If you're up at 4 a.m. moving
Yeah.
cows and
swinging
you know,
swords, training for the next
walking
regime to battle.
doing a walking plow.
or someone like Brian Shaw who's forcing the food into
Yeah.
his system.
Because he absolutely needs it because of all the
has
weight he's
to.
moving.
And if you don't know who Brian
Amazing.
Shaw is, watch Born Strong. It's on Netflix.
Netflix.
Awesome.
yeah, he says he treats eating like it's a
And
part
they'll
of his
even
profession, like
the
it's a
best
job.
part about Born
Yep.
Strong is they even give you a little bit of the science of how these guys go through their testings and their blood panels, and they're told by their doctors that you're gonna die if you keep this up.
Yeah, I read something. It was some sort of video journal that they did a video on they introduced the thing that CrossFit has going against soda, but they also talked about how the NASM is trying to push for certifications to be a personal trainer, and you have to go through state licensing.
They're trying to
Because
they're
there's money
trying to
in
make
that.
trainers licensed now.
But they-
I saw that
Regulation.
the other night.
They mentioned the thing that they mentioned that caught my eye was
that happens, I'm charging double.
the thing that they mentioned that caught my eye was that Coca-Cola has a lot of science grants. And what happens is Coca-Cola and Pepsi and all these companies have created, tens and hundreds of millions of dollars in grants for scientists. Well, here's the thing. That's Coca-Cola backing that, and they know the scientist knows that. So the scientist is going to get this $15 million grant. Well, guess what? The scientist is going to be directed to sway their findings to benefit the person that gave them that $15 million grant. And that is one of the biggest problems, too, with science in general and the BMI and sugar science is for years, Coca-Cola, Kellogg's, all these major brands, high in sugar, have been funding the grants and studies that they've been using as, well, science says this is the findings and this is the reason that carbs are great and pasta and high sugar and, and fiber and screw fat. Fat is the devil. A lot of these findings have also been, well, not directly, hey, here's money, tell them what we want you to tell them. They're indirectly funding and thus kind of helping guide the findings to befit their needs.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I think another part of it is for example, one of my favorites, kind of bring it off topic, was the recent study that red meat causes cancer and has now changed classes of carcinogen.
Oh yeah, I read that.
But what the people don't realize is, I had someone actually bring it up, that why drink protein shakes after you work out? Does that make you more lean or more cut? Or why are you eating so much red meat? Isn't that bad for you? Those studies, although they weren't persuaded or twisted or manipulated, what was wrong with the study was the sample of the population that they pulled to do the study from. The one variable that they didn't care on at all was the fact that these people that were in the sample doing the study, the test subjects essentially, they also smoked. Some of them also drank. Some of them were inactive, not physically fit. Some of them got their red meat from bad sources. And then some of those people were healthy in shape and got grass-fed beef, and they lumped it all into one sum. And then the results, of course, are going to be skewed and inaccurate and give off the result that red meat is going to give you heart disease or cancer, and it's not good for you.
They may not have taken into consideration locations too. Like if you live in a town, half a mile
Food
away
desert.
from a factory that pumps out a bunch of carcinogen bullshit in the air,
Poor Michigan.
you might be more apt to get cancer, or you might be, you might drink water like, say, Flint, Michigan.
Yep.
So there's a lot of other controlled aspects to that they definitely did not take into consideration.
And that's
when
what people
creating
aren't
a control
reading.
group.
People aren't reading that part of the studies. People are looking at the titles that these article creators, these authors are creating, and basing their whole idea of understanding of red meat on the title of an article.
Yep. And it's a
One
lot
sentence.
of it is clickbait, what we call clickbait, where it's some sort of like
Fake news.
harrowing, crazy, oh my God moment title, and then you read into it and realize it's nothing of the sort.
What's
There's
the
no
new one on
insanity
Netflix
on it.
right now? That
What the health?
There's What
Yeah,
the
the
Health,
vegan-
and
the
there's the
vegetarian
other
or
one
vegan
that
one.
talks about the chicken farmers and how don't eat dairy and all that stuff. Pretty much, like just
My favorite is the YouTube video of the doctor watches What the Health. That's that's the title of it. That's so funny. That was my reaction when I watched it too.
our toothpaste is poisoning us. Artificial sweeteners are
It's
killing
hurting your
us,
pineal gland, man.
Don't eat bacon. Like, come
The
on.
government's after us, man.
There's a pretty simple way to get around all that. It's eat what you believe in.
Yep.
Eat responsibly sourced food. And I don't mean just meat. I mean pretty much everything. Be responsible. You have Google. You can look up
Yep.
brands. You can look up companies and see where it's coming from.
Be active.
You can, be active.
Isn't
Be
there a
active.
CalShare?
Yeah, be active in looking up what you're eating. Be responsible. And take that extra step. Pull out your phone when you're at the grocery store. If you're comparing brands and why one's more expensive than the other, why organic is more expensive than non-organic. And if you really want to know, pull out your phone and Google the two and see the difference. And look for responsibly sourced food. I buy a lot of my meat now off what they call Crowd Cow, which is responsibly sourced meat. They go around and find farms all over the nation that farm really responsibly made organic meat and chicken and everything else in between. And you can just buy what you need, and they ship it right to your house, frozen, flash frozen, and I eat it as I need it. But I don't have to worry about what's in it. I don't have to worry about mad cow disease and all the rest of the crap that comes
Worry
up every
about
now
where
and
it's
then.
coming from, how it was butchered. Like, you know what? Circle of life.
Cost me a little bit more money,
Or if
but
you like
I'll
me,
tell you
just
what,
go
I
hunting.
like being, like not worrying.
Go hunt and get your
Go
own
hunt
meat.
and get it
It's
yourself.
very satisfying.
And
Talk about responsibly sourced.
clean
That's what
that
I'm talking
animal
about.
and be a human.
Help the land conservation. I know all you West Coasts all about that. If you buy a ticket, a deer tag, you are literally helping wildlife conservancies. You're donating right there.
Hunting isn't a bad
80%
thing,
of that money
folks.
goes back to the wildlife.
And all you vegetarians out there, you're saving all those plants you love so much because now the deer aren't eating them all.
Studies show that studies are starting to confirm that plants are alive and they know when they're being eaten. So vegetarians.
Watch The Happening with Mark
You
Wahlberg.
you read the title of an article, didn't you? And didn't actually read the article for that.
I might have.
Plants have feelings. Plants have feelings.
All right, guys, that's it for us today. Hopefully, we helped bust some myths that you were worried about, or some significant other friends might be worried about. If this hits home for anybody, share it, please. Share it with your friends, family. Let's get those myths busted.
Be
Let's,
more human.
If you'd like to be a guest, please contact Chris at cftfit.com.
Yeah,
sign up
or
for the
Dean,
open.
Or
You wanna-
Dean,
you wanna come in here?
DEAN at cftfit.com. He's our
Ooh, it's
producer.
official.
If you guys want to give him any feedback on his show, or if you guys want to get on the show, talk to Dean. He'll get it set up
Or
for
if you
you.
want to fight me,
Yeah, or if you really want to argue any of this stuff,
bring it.
put it in the comments.
I'll
We
give
want to
you
hear
a fit
it.
aid.
Yep. Peace.